Okay, gotcha.
You
Okay,
know?
so it is bigger than that.
Yeah, so like that would influence, and I think that's the reason why
Bless you.
I love. That's the
Cat,
reason
are
why I
you
love
okay over
Taylor.
there?
Like,
Yeah, I sneezed so hard my headphones came off.
I just love I love how poised she came back. She came back so poised. She's like, and whatever here.
And we're back.
We're back.
disregard.
So I almost didn't do season 2, but then I watched the Ghouls Next Door video and I was like, I can do this. Family and friends, listeners of the Mirage podcast, thanks so much for coming back. Thank you for clicking on this. You are here now to listen to me chat with these two incredible women. Hello, Gabe and Kat of the Ghouls Next Door podcast.
Hi.
Hello.
This is my first podcast on podcast interview. I just thought about that.
Yay.
That is so exciting. So shout out to you guys being a part of the Podern family. With that being said, listen, people, I would not be here without Gabe and Kat and everything that they've established as a podcast. I've always been inspired. I met the two of them through a mutual friend, through Allie, who was also a guest on the show. It's just been fun getting to know you, but also learning more about the podcast as I started working with the artist Oasis and, you know, promoting and taking a closer look at your videos. So thank you so much for wanting to join me, and thank you for the time that we're about to spend chatting about your podcast.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
I was just complimenting these two ladies, everyone. I've watched their episodes. Their videos on YouTube are of such high quality, and that's because both of them work in the AV field as far as audio, video, tech, and things like that go. With that being said, their podcasts, their episodes are always so educational and informative. I've given them the compliment multiple times where there are many times the two of them cover and say things that I struggle to put into words. So having the opportunity to really speak one-on-one today and, you know, have an intimate conversation about the establishment of your friendship, more personally, as well as the podcast, that's something I'm really excited to do.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Tell me a little bit about the two of you individually. What was it that you were doing prior to the podcast?
What was I doing?
Oh my god, so long ago.
Time.
Yeah, this is our three years now.
Yeah.
We were young and wild and free 3 years ago. Yeah, I work in public access television. So Philly Cam, which is Philadelphia's public access TV and radio station. And so I work with, you know, people-powered media, making media that matters. And that's kind of like where my love is. And I definitely love what I do. And sometimes it's work, but sometimes it's like, you know, it's satisfying enough that you're like, this is worth it.
Yeah.
I'm losing sleep, but for a good reason. And that took a lot of like my energy and time, but also because of that and because of those resources and the people that I'm around, we were able to kind of have a head start. We have really great team and, you know, people that we can always look to if we have questions for what we're doing. And it kind of gave us that leg up of like production value or like, what are we doing? Like we didn't have to like hit some of those snafus that new podcasters do because we had that support.
Gotcha. And how about you, Kat?
I did not work in like TV or radio, but I did like make music and had like audio experience. And actually the biggest thing was like Gabe and I were best friends. We lived together. She wanted to make a podcast and I was like, it was definitely like, it started as FOMO. So like fear of missing out. I was like, if you're going to make one, I want to be on there.
Yeah.
Don't make podcasts with you'll become best friends with them. I'm best friend. So, but like not like creepy or weird. It was just like I wanted to be included.
And guess what? If it was creepy and weird, that's okay. Totally makes sense. We've all been there. We all relate to what you just said, girl. You're good.
And we were so she was trying to make a podcast and then we were kind of talking about like what we both loved, and Gabe had always like our friendship kind of started in getting invited to these like horror films that she got like early access to, and I was always down to like go with her, and then we kind of like had this whole thing where we just became best friends and wanted to kind of figure out a way to use both of our talents to make a thing. And I had a history and anthropology background, and Gabe had the whole media literacy, media analysis, media everything background. And it's just like the combination. It took us like a minute to, I think, catch our groove or our stride to like figure out exactly like what we were trying to do. But once we did, it's been dope. It's been dope. It's been 3 years. Crazy.
3 amazing years. It's been dope as an understatement. Like you said, that leg up that you do have as far as production quality goes, it's phenomenal. You guys belong on a television network, you know, on a big network, and I won't be surprised when that finally happens because I have a feeling it will. Yes.
Hopefully.
Seriously, especially because, and I didn't know about your background in anthropology, Kat.
Yeah,
but
it's a minor, so it's not like the big guy. It's just like I learned about it too.
Yeah, but either way, that's something so important that is brought to the table with each of your episodes. Now that I know that, you know, that gives me an open eye to how some of the conversations go. It makes total sense. So you mentioned how you kind of had a rocky start. And that's interesting to me. I wouldn't have expected that. But I understand how all things take time, you know, to really get established and put into place. What are some of the things that you experienced in the beginning that didn't feel so good?
We were just very bad at what we were doing. You know, like Kat said, I really loved podcasts. Like that, honestly, it was just that I listened to podcasts like constantly at that time. And in the real world, when I'm allowed to go outside and I travel, I'm always listening to podcasts. So like I would make jokes that like I can't even like go shopping without the voices in my head. You know, like those are like my constant support. And it plays into like having anxiety. Like there are certain podcasts that I'll put on that are like, if you're having one of those days where you're just like, I cannot be in my own head. Like I cannot be with my thoughts. I will escape to their thoughts. And it was like this love that I had for the podcasters that I was listening to. And I was like, I want to do that. Like I can do that. I want to be that for somebody. Like I want to, you know, like I could do something like that. So at first I had an idea to do a show specifically about apocalypses in the media. And that was based off of a class I took in college that I was like in love with. That was kind of like this eye-opening moment about like media analysis and like how the apocalypses were like that we're seeing in media were direct representations of like what the people were afraid of at the time.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And so I was like, I want to do that. And then I couldn't really find a person to do that. There was like a few people I was talking to, but it just like wasn't working out. So
you were cheating on Kat all along. Kat just wanted to be there for you.
Yeah.
That's how it worked. Well, it was like I was like, I'm gonna do this, and then Kat was like, well, what about? She's like, I'm here. Like we hang out. We're gonna be hanging out anyway. Why not just like we're funny. Like we hang out and have fun like conversations. Like we love each other, so why not? I was like, okay. So we definitely wanted it. We always wanted it to be more than just like a horror review. Like we didn't want it to just be like a new movie came out, let's talk about it. There's enough of those, right?
Right, absolutely.
We wanted to be something that's educational and fun and you know, quirky. And so it definitely was that. But I think because of my love for podcasts, like I listen to these podcasts that have been around for years. And so there was this natural rapport that the hosts had with each other. There was also this kind of like a affection and connection with their audience already because it already existed, like they've worked on it. So we kind of came in at like a 10. Like we came in as if we were already famous. We already had fans that understood who we were and weren't just getting to know us. Like,
oh, that's funny.
And so yeah, our first episode is us laughing at all our own jokes.
Talking over each other. Yep.
Talking over each other. There's like 5 episodes where it's just like one of us starts a thought and the other one's like, it's my turn.
Oh my goodness.
So, oh my god. Like Kat said, it took us a minute for like and a lot of editing for me to be like, Kat. Like
this insight is so interesting and fun, and I'm probably gonna go back to your very first episode and insert a clip of it right here. You're like, no, please don't.
It's deleted. We've taken it off.
Darn it.
Yeah.
Crap.
Because it's literally just us laughing over each other like the entire time and like trying to make jokes that like we thought of beforehand, and like were just drastically trying to get them like in because we talked for so long and we drank during it, which was a mistake.
Yeah, I have it for sure, so I could definitely send
Oh, that would be so fun. That would be
God,
so fun.
It is really bad.
And it's interesting to me that you said that. I actually was going to ask a question that kind of goes in the other direction. Because you were such an avid listener of other podcasts, did you find that you were trying to be like other podcasts, was my question. It's so clear that the two of you do have such amazing chemistry, and your friendship really shines through in each of your episodes. So I was going to ask, in the beginning, did you not have that because you may have been, you know, trying to emulate so much of what you were listening to?
Yeah, I think it just took a while for us to realize like what it was, like what our point was, like you know, like what are we trying to do, what are we trying to accomplish. And making sure that we were showing that and not just doing it for doing its sake, right? Like being intentional with our work. But yeah, I think it took for me, it definitely was like, okay, we have to realize, like we have to meet people where they're at and they don't know us yet. But then when people do get to know us, like in the way that we interact, like that's a big part of like what like our fans talk about. It's often just like, I just love how you guys talk to each other, and like that you guys definitely are like great co-hosts that work off of each other's energy. And so I think that just came natural once we, you know, because we were already best friends, it helped,
right?
Because we were comfortable with one another, and then just like we also lived together, so we had like
it was very convenient.
We have that. The kind of rules in place just for like roommates, where it's just like, I need you to be open and honest about things that you're experiencing. So like, we both live here. This is both of our space. So that like kind of translated to the podcast too. It's like we are both the hosts of this podcast. This is our podcast. And so if you are feeling like, hey, I don't really like what I said here, or like I don't think it came across appropriately, then we'll like, that's why we pre-record, right? It's like, okay, let's get that out of there, because it doesn't like help with the message, and just being honest with each other really helps.
That's really awesome. Now I'd like to rewind even further back. How did the two of you meet, get that close, end up living together, etc.?
Yeah, I moved to Philly. I went on Craigslist to find a house to live in, because at the time I lived in New Jersey, because that's where I went to college. And I had gotten a job in Philly before I found a place to live in Philly. So I went on Craigslist, and we met through a mutual, I became friends with the roommate that I met through Craigslist, and we became friends through that mutual friend, because our second roommate had moved out and Gabe was going to move in. And we didn't love each other right away. We definitely
were not friends.
I was a hot mess when I first moved to Philly. I was a hot mess. I was a whole situation, and Gabe was not a fan at first. Because I was just like emotions all the time, and Gabe was like, "Yo, that's not what we do outside. You need to chill. You can't cry here, like lady."
Oh my gosh!
So that was me, and then I grew on her, and then we became best friends. I envisioned it.
It was that I think we were both definitely like the worst
like, versions of ourselves at that time. It
was not a great.
And what year was this? How long ago are we talking?
2015.
Oh, okay. Guys, that wasn't that long.
It was. We have.
It was. I don't even know who that person is anymore.
Okay.
Past. Who's that?
3 years ago. Who was that?
Let me clarify. I would have assumed that it would take longer to develop such a beautiful friendship and such great chemistry, is really what I meant to say. I thought you were going to say like, oh man, I was like 2008, you know, like for you to go through not liking each other and be where you are today, I thought that took much more time.
No, it kind of happened over, I'd say, a year. It actually was, so we had been living together, didn't really like each other, and then I moved out, and that's when we became best friends, because then we became kind of intentional about hanging out, because it wasn't like you're around the corner or like you're in the next room. So like we would make dates, like we would go and do things, or I'd take her to the screenings, or and that's when we kind of like began to click, and then we were finding ourselves making even more time for each other, and then it was like we moved back in. now we're
Yeah.
coming
Got
back
it.
together. And then we had been living together since, and just recently have moved to different homes.
Gotcha.
Because now we're living with men.
Yeah, with
It's weird, but it's good. It's weird.
Really
but it's
cool
good.
men who I've also had the pleasure of meeting.
Yes.
You guys are just, there's a long list of my relationship inspirations. The four of you definitely on it. I'll get there one day. Allie and Jeff at the top.
Oh, 100%. Reasonably so.
Yeah, man. Still speaking on your friendship a little bit. Were there any like arguments, any headbutting that have come as a result of any podcasting?
I don't think so.
I don't
If
think
not,
so
that's
either.
awesome. I thought of that because of what you said with like the fact that you did have that chemistry and you were able to speak to each other about how you truly felt, you know, about certain situations or things that were happening within your recording time and stuff. So I was just like, I wonder if there's ever been that really, you know, deep friend conversation that I know we've all had, you know, with our best friends, and wondering if you've ever gotten into what feels like a split between professional and personal debate since you guys started investing your time into the podcast.
No, I mean, some of the challenges were like us speaking over one another, and that was just like really frank of like, let's be supportive of one another, and also like for me too, like I even still like I have to like be conscious of like don't say all the words like I just have to be like cat now. You go.
Right.
But it definitely was like it was us kind of combating each other, and then as soon as it was just like no, this is ours, we're gonna make time for each other, we became kind of conscious of that. And also like the scripts really helped when we first started.
Okay.
You know, having it be like, okay, we start with facts, so that's Kat's like area, so I will play support, like she will have this research, I will help with research, and I will like hop in, like tag me in, or if there's something that only I can kind of speak to because it's from a certain lens, sure. And then for film, it's like we have this overall of like what is it, and then I'll do like the more nuanced things, so that helps kind of like with spaces. I will say like I wouldn't say it's like an argument or anything like that, but we do kind of make sure that we're both saying what we need to say. So there'll be times when like I'm trying to explain something and it is not coming out the way that it should, or
Yes.
like it's not an argument, but it'll just be like, let's, you know, look over that content, listen through, and you check that that's what you want to say, or like let's be sure. And also with Kat too, where I'll just be like, hey, I don't know if that's the argument we want to make, or oh, we didn't consider this one demographic when we said that, or like does this sound insensitive, like those kinds of things where we kind of like patrol each other. I guess we're like the PC police for each other, not to say that we're saying out of pocket.
No.
Mad at, like you're like, whoa, that is definitely like my lens, like my world.
And in that way, like two heads are so much better than one. It's great that you have each other for that. Before, one of you individually may have just said something thinking that, you know, all was well, and then you have a comment that's addressing, you know. So I totally get that. That's awesome.
And we usually catch each other before it even gets out into the world. So it's like either like if I said something or gave something, it would be like, oh, we should edit that out. That wasn't. This person could be potentially offended by that statement. So it's like it's good that like we're always kind of like have each other's back. And I agree. I don't think we ever had like any arguments. If anything, it was just like us being like honest with each other. Because there's definitely been that, like when we used to talk over each other, it's like we each need time. Like my introverted self is always like, I am not going, like in the beginning, we had alcohol, and that's extrovert cats. So that's a different human. But once we just started like doing scripts and like like preparing more and like really get into our groove, like I'm an introverted person, so like I usually will be like, oh, that person's done talking, I'll talk now, but like I won't do it before then. So I'm like always kind of like wait. So we finally found our balance with like respecting each other's like sections. I think that was like the biggest thing, where we like spaced it out, where it's like facts was me and media was you, and like just like kind of knowing that that is the sacred space of saying all the words that you want to say, and then like we just support each other in those times. So it's cool. It's been good.
You have done a wonderful job accomplishing that. You can definitely see the balance, and that each of you are working, in your strengths. So that's great. So tell me about your genre choice. You said that there were certain screenings and whatnot that Gabe was having early access to, and that's incredible. Um, how far beyond that does your love for the horror genre go?
Yeah, pretty far. We like that's kind of like Kat was my horror buddy, so is Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, are like my go-to horror movie watchers. I actually found this Facebook like status from like when like 5 years ago, where it was just like I want to go see The Visit, which is M. Night Shyamalan's movie at the time, new movie, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
anyone want to go? And there was like one person, and then Kat hopped on like, I love horror movies, I want to go. That
Aww.
kind of was like a part, like that was like one of the first like times where I was like, okay, because even my response is like, all right, I'll see about the information, like I'll see
Right,
if
right,
you
right.
know.
Like, do I really want to go with you? How about
Yeah, like why not?
that?
And then it like that mutual love. But I think a part of it is like one, it was like foundational in our youth of
Mm-hmm.
loving horror, and it is such a
Okay.
niche like genre that when you find a
Yes.
fellow horror lover that like loves it in a genuine way, you're like, yes, like you're like,
Yep.
I want to hang out with that person. But also like because like specifically with our show, and we've like it is evolved to media analysis from a horror lens, so we do kind of step
Mm-hmm.
outside of horror, which is why we did like Sorry to Bother You, or
Yes.
I'm not okay with this. Like those aren't exactly horror, but we talk about the horrific parts of them, right? Or like the repercussions or the history
Mm-hmm.
of it that would
Yes,
be
and
horror.
the chickens like me appreciate you branching out, because Sorry to Bother You was indeed horrific. Like, for
Yeah.
me, that was scary.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Oh
I'm a
yeah.
chicken.
That turn, and it's like, how did we get here? Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Deep.
Yeah, and I think with horror though is, and we've said this before, is that it's kind of like on the fringe. Like it doesn't get
Mm.
patrolled as much as
Mm-hmm.
the other genres, like because people aren't
Mm-hmm.
really watching. Or they're now watching it, but
Yes.
before, like people weren't really in that space unless they already liked it, and so it got away with a lot more. It could be
Mm-hmm.
more. It could have more commentary, and it was always reflective of like what we were experiencing as like human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just had a conversation with a guest that's coming out next month about the term elevated media or elevated horror, and
Mm-hmm.
like Kat had a
Hmm.
really great take on that where she was like, that's just privilege to call it
Yeah.
elevated horror, like this is just real life, first of
Oh,
all.
Yeah. It's like,
wow.
oh, it's cool that you like don't want to think about that all the time, but there are people who have to think
Wow.
about it all the time. So that's literally just defining what privilege is.
Yeah, so good.
So
And that's like
elevated
All the
horror
yeah,
isn't
snaps.
real.
horror has
All horror
always been
exists.
that. Yeah. Like I think about Rosemary's Baby, right? Like the horror has always been saying something, and it's just that people are now paying attention, which
Right.
is I'm really grateful for. Like I'm really thankful
Mm-hmm.
to Jordan Peele for making Get Out, because I think that really kind of started that conversation in like the more like populated areas, right? Like people are
Yes.
now like, wait a second, this is telling me something.
Wait, is
Oh.
is racism horrible? What? Like,
A
no.
wonderful horror movie could be made about it.
And they were marketing it as comedy. Remember, like he was up for an award for comedy
Yes,
because they
right.
didn't even consider it to be horror. Like, but now we have Lovecraft Country, or we
Right.
have like Watchmen, and these other films or TV shows that are just like that and are being considered
Mm-hmm.
horror because that's accurate. So,
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, the world's like, no offense to the world, but like, it's a horrible place. Horrible things happen
Horrible.
all the time.
You're
And
right.
I like speaking from my own personal experience, like I have experienced a lot of trauma, and I saw
Yeah.
horror as a way to like kind of process
Mm.
worst case scenarios in a safe space.
Wow.
Because it's like, yeah, bad stuff happens all around us all the time, and that's horrifying to process because it's like it's real and it's in front of you, and like you either don't live at the end of this movie that is your life or you keep going.
Mm.
But in like horror movies, you get that like false sense of, I guess it's a real sense of security, but it's like, it's not happening for real. It's teaching you kind of like what you would need to do if that scenario of awfulness happened. And sometimes it's like ridiculous, and sometimes it's like stranger danger is very real. Someone could break in your house. I don't know why people don't lock their doors. Like, but like, that's the thing. Like, if you see a film that presents that scenario, you are now more prepared to deal with that scenario because it is no longer shocking to you. Like, you're just like, wow, that exists. All right, you get boards, you put nails in them, you put them by the windows, like that movie we watched, Gabe, where the lady was like super ready to fight the people who you're next. Yes. But yeah, it like teaches you kind of that, video games and otherwise, you know, it teaches you how to kind of prepare, even if hopefully you'll never have to deal with some of the specific scenarios.
Yeah. I mean, I wish playing Mortal Kombat also taught me how to fight if I get jumped, but no. I totally get what you're saying. Kat, I want to say, like, thank you sincerely for your transparency regarding, you know, your traumatic experiences and how that connects to your love for the horror genre. You opened my mind to something I've never thought of before. Without being long-winded, I have not experienced a lot of things that would mirror the trauma and the situations that we do see in a horror film. So I don't watch any of them because I'm a chicken. But the scary films that I have seen, I've never watched them and had the opportunity to connect to what was happening in them. I've always seen it as entertainment. So I never would have thought to connect those things. So I really appreciate you speaking on that. That's crazy. That's really deep. Also, with what you said earlier, Gabe, about like listening to the podcasts, I am outside of my own mind. And same thing, I was not an avid podcast listener until immediately before I chose to start this one. And I never would have thought that like you're getting into that other conversation because you don't want to deal with, et cetera, et cetera. I guess I could say music does that for me. I stop, and whether it's the production of the music, the lyrics of the music, you know, the melodies, I zone in on that, and I'm not thinking about anything else. So that's really cool. We all got our things.
Yeah.
Lyrics are where it's at. I'm totally with you there.
Yes, they are. Tell me some of your favorite, I know we're talking about movies. Tell me some of your favorite music artists, since it is media analysis. No longer just horror.
No, I got you. I'm pulling up my playlist.
Hey, there we go. Do you have any specific thoughts about any movies with soundtracks, you know, different scores and stuff that really spoke to you and stand out?
Yeah. Yes. Well, horror and music movies and music is super important. And horror really relies heavily on soundscapes and the sound design. So like, you know, if you watch Psycho and you have it on mute, when we have the stab scene, like that's not like without the like what do you got? You got nothing.
It's just like, why is he doing this? Why doesn't he just do it? He just stab. Like, why is it a whole thing?
That's a great point, Kat. Great point.
But music tells us like how to feel sometimes, and it kind of even like on a subconscious level in horror, like you know when something bad's coming because of the music, and it even can psych you out too, because you could be like, oh no, it's something, and then it's like nothing, right?
Yep.
Same with video games, right? Like you know when you hear the music pick up and you're like, where is it? Where's that?
Right. It's the boss round.
Yeah,
okay.
Like, hold on.
Bring it on.
Walking, it's like, and you're like,
Right.
It's so good. There's there's phenomenal horror soundtracks out there. You know, a lot of the classic, like just thinking of like Titular Bells from Exorcism and things like that, but like, or The Exorcist. There's a film that we did in one of our episodes with our friend Sergio about horror movie scores, and he suggested Suspiria, which the first Suspiria, the whole soundtrack is by this band called Goblin, and honestly, without that, you would not have that film. Like it's a part of the film, like the absurd colors, and the acting. It's very silly, but there's like all these absurd colors, and there's this drama to it, and without those like high tense, like just noise
Right.
that you're hearing from Goblin. It wouldn't, like, it would be a completely different film, which is why the new one they had, I don't like him, but they did, and I haven't watched it yet, but what's his name from Radiohead? Tom York, is that his name?
Something.
I think he did the whole soundtrack for it. And I was actually just saying, I really don't, I never really enjoyed like the 80s like synth pop like films, like all like, or like robot, like I don't like
Right.
I fall asleep to them, like Blade Runner, fell asleep. Ghost in the Shell, fall asleep. Like I just can't, like, I get it, like, are we real, are people robots?
Right.
But I I was like, I don't know if like, I love synth pop and I love like synthwave music, and that's like my calm music and my chill music, so I'm like, if it's on the movie, I can't be afraid of it, because I'm like,
exactly.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
like,
vibes.
right.
And you're just like, no, this is real. What are you talking about?
Like, what? I am a robot. Robots are me. What?
Exactly.
Film does a lot with music. I mean, people interpret music, it's really cultural, based on like what tones are associated with good and bad. Like that's established at a really young age. And I say this as a person who's taken one linguistics course, and I was just like really into it, but like I have no degree in this, but I learned a lot about it. And I wrote a whole paper basically about how tonal learning, like, so how you learn like what is a happy sound versus a negative sound, is established really young. And it's like in the same vein of where we're learning language and whatever language we're learning. So the music in these films, I mean, it really depends on what country you're like it's from too. That'll like play a big part on what the soundtrack will be doing and what sounds will be used to scare people. Where like I feel like in America here, it's a lot of like anticipation building. So you get that kind of like on edge, like subtle buildup. And then you kind of have that like really jarring sound that just doesn't sound right. Like we like uncomfortable sounds, I think, in our horror films. Like really high pitched, really like jagged sounding, like things that just don't sound right. And that'll be really effective. I feel like It Follows, it had a really good soundtrack.
Yeah, It Follows actually has a pretty synthy soundtrack, which adds to the color escape to it as well. But yeah, it has a great soundtrack. I would say there's a sound that gets me every time I watch the film, and it's not a horror film, but it's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And whenever the villain, so like the...
Oh my gosh, yes!
But we were in theaters watching...
Well, wait a second, not spoiling it. If anybody has not seen that movie yet, shame on you.
Yes.
Ah, guys.
I don't know what the guy's name is, but I don't want to say who it ends up being, so I won't do that. But the villain, whenever he's about to show up, and you
it's
that,
the
like,
weirdest sound.
And it's like, like, I feel that in my bones.
I'm flipping out. I'm flipping out that you picked up on that, girl.
It kills me every single time. It's like the whole thing.
It's
I love
so
the film
good.
Times. Every single time it came up, I was like, oh God.
It's such like, I love that sound. But what does that say about it? Like, it made you uncomfortable. It impacted you. Who chose that sound for that moment? Like, oh my gosh, I did not know somebody else was going to pick up on that with me. I think it's the dancer in me that looks for those sounds that are going to make me move a certain way. Oh my gosh. Every time. Yep.
Yeah. Because it puts you in that fear. It hits something primal, I think, in us. Because I think the pitch of it, too, is it reminds me, Jeff has this thing he got from, I think, Mexico, and it's like a jaguar call thing, and he blows in it, and it does this like jaguar yell. And
so cool.
No matter like if I'm expecting it or not, when it happens, I'm like, ah, like my body is like, ah, and it's that same kind of like pitch.
Well, because we should fear jaguars. 100%. Yeah, like, that's not.
There's a human.
They could kill us at any time.
Yeah. So I think that's what it is. It's like an animal like hitting on humans trying to survive.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you need when you hear that sound.
Yeah.
That's a great observation.
Yeah, and I mean, soundtrack can either make or break a film. I definitely have seen a few where I'm like, oh, this would have been fine if this music was not this terrible. Or like,
Yes.
there just like isn't enough lead-in, so you're just like, this is awkward to watch. It's as if you're
Yes.
watching like Psycho without the knife sound.
Mhm.
Like, it's literally just like, why? They could have made this so much better.
Yep.
Or like, it's also, it kind of stinks, honestly, when a film is only good because of the music, because you want it to
Right.
have both. And
Mhm.
it's
They have to work
honestly,
together.
it goes back to like that whole everything should be intentional. You shouldn't just like throw something in there. Like everything should be made to like kind of intertwine with each other so that it's
Right.
getting a full point across.
Yeah, looking at you, Suicide Squad. Whole mess.
Yep.
Throwing shade. We are throwing shade, Suicide Squad.
Yep.
Yes, I haven't seen that since it was out in theaters, but I do remember the fact that there was something that made me feel awkward. Like, I remember that awkward feeling of something's missing, something's not right here.
That's a film.
Yeah.
It exists.
Mm-hmm. So, it is the week of Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
What do you go through? What do you feel? What's happening in the world of the ghouls next door when it's the week of Halloween, dude? Shoot, when it's October. Like, what is happening in your world?
It's the busiest time of year. It is like
it's the most
Yep.
horrific time
of the year. 100%.
Amen.
It's literally just like, oh wow, we must reflect on everything we've ever done. Have we achieved our dreams? Oh God, we haven't. What can we
like
do?
for most people is that New Year's Eve, but for you guys
so.
it's Halloween.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're like, why haven't more people reached out to, like, it's a whole, and then Gabe gets into her comparing. She does that a lot. Where she's like, I listened to this podcast. They only have 20 episodes and they're more popular than us. Why?
Oh my goodness. Gabe, do not do that.
I throw a fit all the time. And Kat just deals with, she's like, I just listened to them and they're different. Or she'll be like, Gabe, that's a true crime podcast. And I'm like, still. She's like,
yeah, we
no,
don't do true crime. It's totally
pretty.
different.
She's like, we're pretty. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. It's, October is crazy because it's our that's when we kicked off, right? Like we our first episode was in October, and so it's like that's our anniversary, and it's, you know, looking back and seeing what we've done and kind of making plans for the future. We are usually pretty busy, with the fact that, like, you know, COVID exists. It's a little less busy. Like last year we were in and out of other shows, and you know, there was a few live events that we were kind of planning to be in, and
very cool.
But I mean, this year we still have quite a bit going on. Like, we love that you invited us here.
Yes.
Funnily enough, we so next month for the Ghouls, we will have every episode will feature a podcaster in the horror world.
Very cool.
And, like, specifically, like, we were seeking out a very specific podcaster, so that it's not just like any straight white man talking about horror.
Yeah.
There's none of those.
Because there's too many of those, and they need to stop.
We all know what they.
And I'm sure your listeners and viewers appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. And well, we re-record significantly in advance, generally, and so we have been recording our November episodes all this month. And it was like, when we were trying to catch up with people, I was like, of course, they're also like a horror podcast. They are also going to be really busy this month.
Really busy.
Like,
oh, okay, gotcha.
I was like, oh right, this must be what people feel all the time when they're talking to us in October.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But we're having a Ghouloween shindig, but it's for Gabe's birthday. So it's literally just me and Gabe and our boyfriends dressing up, masked and social distance, but celebrating Gabe's birthday.
Ready to see pictures. Yeah, I'm ready to see pictures of that. Awesome. And I would ask what you're going to dress up as, but no, I'd rather be surprised and excited and see it when you guys post it. And we'll definitely share that as well. When are your birthdays? I actually was meaning to ask that. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. Well, Kat is a Gemini.
Yeah, May 25th.
Most of the people that I love in my life.
Nice.
Most of them are Geminis. I'm a Scorpio. My birthday is November 4th, which means it'll be... it's toss-up
Yeah.
with what we're
Tomorrow.
going to do. Probably won't know. Right, it's always right after, elections. But it is also right there near Halloween. So most of my birthdays, like since I've been able to choose what happens in them, have been like Halloween or like costume themed.
Yes.
Because it's like, that's fun. Why not? And it's just
That's so fun. Do you feel as though that has anything to do with just like being so young, being conditioned to a certain extent? Like the fact that that's when your birthday has been your whole life. Has it been so natural for you to just take to the life of horror?
I don't know if it's my birthday. I think it's that I grew up with a family who really loves horror, and like older cousins who loved it. My mom who would show me horror movies when I was far too young, like Child's Play when I was 2.
It would have been so cool if like you had no other Scorpios in your family, your parents didn't make you watch, you know what I mean, and then you just had this love for it. I would have been like, it's because of your birthday. But very cool. And I also connect with both Geminis and Scorpios. You both just said that, and I was like, yes, makes so much sense. Shout out to any of my astrology lovers out there listening. I get a little silly over it, but in my brain, it all makes sense, okay? And my Venus is in Gemini, Cat, so I love you, you love me, Barney vibes, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then, as far as Scorpios go, my little brother is a Scorpio. And he and I are like the same person. But also, Gabe, I looked up something about Scorpios because of my little brother and discovered something I love so much. People say that you guys are honorary fire signs, which I just think that title in itself is just so cool. That somebody worked that out. But because of how passionate you guys are, like I love what you've said so far about getting upset and comparing your podcast to the other ones and you feeling, those emotions. So they say that because you guys are so passionate about the things that you feel and you're also frequently artistic and creative, that, that's kind of like a fire sign thing too. So very cool. All right, sorry. Okay, pick that up, put it back over there.
Scorpio life. Gabe is the first Scorpio I had met, and I was like, I'm about it. But like I had never met another Scorpio before, so it was like really funny. You were the first Scorpio I've ever met, and I was like, wow, I've never known anyone else like you.
The rest of us. Scorpios, you take them or you leave them. You can get pretty, they can be a lot to deal with, so you get it. You can with Geminis, though, so that's all
people hate on Geminis. They hate on us so hard. And I get it. It's like the whole, two-faced thing. I'm like, one day I like everything, the other time I hate everything. I don't even consider which one was which.
Yeah, I don't even consider it two-faced. I think that you guys just have a lot of eggs in a lot of baskets, and they're not all bad baskets. Like, what's wrong with being multifaceted and multi-talented? Are there other things in your life totally separate that you feel sometimes a tug of war happens with? Other hobbies, do you find that you're, trying to make sure you focus on one thing and it's hard to do because there's a bunch of other things that are pulling at you, calling you?
Yeah, all the time. Not in a negative way. It's not like, ugh, ghouls. It's like, all right, all this other stuff can happen, but ghouls is the thing. So always trying to it's better now because I just recently no longer have a job. So I'm thrilled about it because now I have so much more energy. I was very burnt out. I was so dying emotionally. I was I can't do all these things. But now I have a lot more time and energy to focus on ghouls, and I have other projects too that definitely pull me because I am also I'm a creative person, and I get I love to start things. I hate to finish them. It is my biggest flaw of my entire life. I lack follow through so much, and it's Gabe, you helped me a lot with that because otherwise we would never finish anything. I'm like, ooh, this is an idea for a video game. I'm gonna work on this for a week straight and then never look at it again. Today I'm going to become an Instagram comic maker, and then I do that for a week straight and then I don't do it. So it's trying to
feel you.
I'm always trying to do new things, and the Ghouls is the only thing that I've ever done consistently for this long and actually like finished thoughts. So it's pretty dope. It doesn't pull away. I think it's just like it's the main thing, and all other things are like there also.
I hear you. I feel the same way about this podcast. I know it's the main thing. I wish that it had been the main thing like years and years and years ago, so that I didn't have to go through like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I'm good at that. Maybe I should spend my time doing this. Maybe I should invest my time in that. And now it just feels like, wait, I invested all that time in all those things and I don't even really want to do them anymore. I just want a podcast. I just want to keep doing this. You guys are going to get picked up by somebody. Wait, okay. I know this is like tangent. No, we're going to bring it to the center. Something's got to give. The two of you are too good at what you do because it's so niche. Did I use that word correctly? Niche?
Yes.
Niche? Especially because it is such a unique lane. Like, come on. There is a network somewhere that's going to want these types of conversations.
Yeah, we're putting out our feelers. Because of our interviews with these other podcasters, a few of them are involved in a specific network that is horror themes that we're trying to break into. So we're like, hey, let's help us out here.
Yes,
and it's been actually very, very enlightening. We had this realization. Kat looked at me after we got off this call, and she was like, "So you mean to tell me that the reason why we're not like super famous right now is us? We are what's stopping us. Like we're the obstacle in the way that we didn't know which route to take or how to put ourselves out there." And really it took this year for us to be like, we need to just shoot our shots. And that's how we secured these interviews. It's like, just we don't know what people are gonna say, and so we did.
The worst they can say is no.
Yeah, and then you just move on, right? But you don't know if you're gonna do that unless you do. And it's like I think it started as a hobby, right? And it was just something fun for us to do and stay connected and have our friendship in. But it quickly became it is our second job, Kat's first job right now, but definitely something that we've always wanted to be the primary kind of focus. Kat will tell you that I am constantly busy because I sign up and agree to do things.
Gabe's a yes lady.
Yeah, I'm like, sure.
More fire sign energy. Not yes, I'll do everything for you, but I can do it all. Give it all to me. What's up? Like, I feel you.
100% her.
It's also
I hear you.
Now, we'll kind of throw to Kat like, hey, someone reached out to me to do this, and usually it's either I come to her with like my tail between my legs like a dog, where I'm like, so I signed up for all these things. Can you make sure I'm alive? Or it'll be hey, this person reached out to me. They asked if I want to do this thing, and she's like, well, what other millions of things are you doing this month?
Right. How do we need to organize the calendar?
Yeah, and it's very much like I have. I've been trying. I'm still not good at it, but I have done this thing now where I don't immediately say yes. I ask for more details and I say, I am trying to be conscious of the limited time that I have. And then they go, here's some more details. I'm like, I'm in. Like, why did you
oh my God. I love that you were trying though.
Yeah. I was like, well, I don't know if it's going to be in my schedule. They're like I just signed up to help assistant direct this short horror film, but it's next year. But I was still
it's later.
Roland, our cinematographer, who's made amazing short films with us, was like, hey, I work with this group and they're going to make a short horror film and they're looking for, crew. And so I wanted to, he was conscious of it too, but was like, I'm going to check with you before I just send your deets over. And I was like, don't promise anything. And then they sent me the info and the script. I was like, all right, when do we meet in Wednesday?
Oh my goodness.
And Roland's like, okay, why are we pretending?
Also the idea person. I get texts multiple times a week where she's like, all right, stay with me. What if we did this really elaborate thing in addition to all the other things? And I'm always just I take a whole 5-second pause where I'm just like, okay, let's do that, What do I
Look
gotta
at the
do?
trust. Look at the trust that you have in her.
Give me the list of things I gotta do, and we will do it. But oh god,
Oh my God,
don't
that's
you have
so great.
27 other things to do? And she's like, yeah, but like new stuff. And I'm like, all right.
Also is. So have we
Guys, I love this. I love that you have each other. I really do. That's you clearly balance each other out in more ways than a few. That's really incredible.
Yeah.
Because Gabe probably wouldn't feel as confident as she does, especially when she's birthing those ideas, sharing them with you, if you weren't there to support her, Kat.
Everyone needs a hype man.
Yeah.
Yes. But you are one another's hype men. Hype women. Hype
people.
Yeah. Hype people.
Hype Johns.
person.
Hype John.
John, yeah, that's Hype John. Yeah, it was our short-lived TikTok career. We made a TikTok that was based off of this. There's an Animal Crossing like sound where it's like people would say things about like you being supportive, and ours is literally me being like, "Do you want to do this thing?" And she's like, "Sure." and I'm like, "What about this thing?" And she's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, our TikTok.
That's our whole life.
Two videos up. One is the tropes in horror, like the characters and what they look like, which is silly.
Choose your character.
Choose your character, and then that one. And we were like, this is a lot of work.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, hands up.
Okay. All of your cosplay, all of it, has that always been a thing? When did the two of you decide, like, yo, let's do it for real. We're not just gonna record the show talking about this, that, and the third. Let's get into it. Get into character.
That was A1 Day 1.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's why you're so good at it. Guys,
We were
did you
clowns
see
the
that?
first one.
Yeah, Kat's amazing at
Awesome.
the art, like the makeup and stuff, and that like she's an artist anyway, so it kind of like blends into it. But yeah, our first episode we were really tired because we like worked full-time jobs, and then we came home and like, we recorded at like 10 p.m. And
why.
of course we were drinking, but I was like, if we don't do it, we're not going to do it. Like, if we don't do this first episode, we're never going to do an episode. We're going to die. And so I know us, right? And so I was like, well, what if we just like goofed off like we do, and let's dress up like clowns? And it was like not great. It was like we put lipstick on our face. And this is like, we dress up every episode up until I'd say like 20 something, even though it was only audio that we were doing, because it was still just a podcast.
Yeah, we were audio only.
For a photo that we would use to promote the episode.
Right.
Then we retired that, and then at the beginning of this year, we were like, we need to do something new. We've been here for 3 years almost. What are we going to do? It's a new year, new us. What are we doing? Because the year before it was when we really solidified like our media analysis, like we're going to be educational, like hardcore. So then this year we're like, what are we doing new? What is it? And it was YouTube content. And so I was like, well, if we're going to do YouTube content, we got to bring back the costumes, because now it's worth it. Like, it's stupid if you like dressed up for not audio, like not video, and then the video comes. And it is super fun. Like, sometimes we're just dressed like the era of the film, or a character who's just like a human. But then
you take it so seriously. Again, an example of the time and the effort and the energy that you put into such a high quality situation, which is why, to any network that might watch this Mirage podcast episode, yes, they clearly need to be picked up. Tell me about 2021. You mentioned some guests that you have coming up that are very special. Actually, you know what? No, that's not what I wanted to ask. I just remembered. I love what you said about becoming yes women in a sense where the only thing that has been holding you back has been yourselves. What does that turning point look like? When and how did you realize that?
Yeah, sorry, Kat, do you want to take it?
No, you got it.
Well, when, it is, a part of it is like me having all these ideas, and getting kind of caught up in myself. Definitely like being jealous of the other things where I'm just like, well, we have to do more. We have to do this. And having the supportive Kat being like, we don't have to, but I'm here to support you to do that, right? But it did take, in our interview, kind of talking to this fellow podcaster, and hearing from him where he's just like, oh, well, here's some people that you could talk to, but just like tweet at them, slip into their DMs, do that. Like, and that's how we got them. Like, we just slipped into their DMs, right? And so it was just like, he was like, oh, like email this person, do this, do that. And we were like, we could have done that this time.
What?
We kind of do.
Thank you. Yeah. No headphones to fall off. Wait, I need headphones.
Good. Yeah, we kind of do reach out still. You know, we did a bit where, I mean, one of the articles that was ever written about us, not even about us, it's a little bit about us, was because we reached out. And so
yes,
it really is just kind of like understanding that in this world of podcasting and creating in this day and age, that there's a slim chance that like someone might just find you, right? Like that you know, you might be the Justin Bieber of podcasting, that you just happen to be viewed. But really it is effort. Like you do have to put yourself out there. You have to make the effort in it. Like we have, you know, realized that our social media hadn't really been up there. And so we both became very conscious of that. And we're like, we need to interact with people. And then all of a sudden we got these like fans on Twitter that like will email us and like message us about things, or when we went on break they were like, when you're coming back, you know, we were like, awesome, you know who we are.
And that was like a test too. We were like, will people notice that we've taken a break? Like we were like, I think that was like a thing, like we both subconsciously were just like worried. We're like, we're gonna go on a break and no one's gonna care,
or they'll forget about us. Like they'll be like,
no, not the case.
It was
not the case at all.
They were like, when are you coming back? What is this? And like, there's all this new stuff.
Amazing.
Like, so yeah, and those, even just like the few fans that have reached out to us, like that really makes our whole day. Like we hear that and it like reignites that flame of like, oh, someone's listening. Like even we just received a comment on YouTube based off of our Sabrina episode where someone was like, yeah, here's how I feel about this one character, because it wasn't a part that we had talked about, but it was like a part we definitely agree with, where they were just like, you're saying all these things, why isn't anyone saying this? And I was like, people are really listening. Like people are watching and then they feel like similar to how I felt about those other podcasts, where they're like, they want to engage with us, they want to have that conversation and have a like-minded individual, like have that like, you know, conversation about it. And so like even just getting those where someone's like, that's a great point, did you think about this? Or like, hey, we should try that. I'm like, yes. Like please tell me more. I want to know that you're like, that this matters, that what we did actually, you know, speak to somebody. Like that's awesome.
And bringing it full circle to when we started the interview, you were saying like people don't watch. Well, actually, you know, they do, and it is growing and evolving, the horror culture, especially in media. And, you know, we were saying we're grateful for Jordan Peele and things that he's doing and bringing to light. So there is a space for you, and I'm very, very happy to hear that there are other people, other than myself, because I love it, but everyone that is still commenting, emailing, and staying engaged with you. They believe in what you do. They need your voices, like you said. I'm so happy that you're able to make those connections and that you have them. Because those will be the people like me. Don't get picked up by a network. Those will be your biggest fans. They will be watching every single week that your show airs, you know, and continuing to email and saying things to you like, yo, I've been here since day one. I remember the episode when you guys were clowns. All I got to see was a picture of it. There wasn't even any video yet, you know? So that is awesome. I love that you've established that for yourselves. I love that you got to experience that feeling of like, you're on a break, come back. What you do absolutely means something.
It's truly wild.
Isn't it crazy?
I was not a popular kid in school, so it's weird that people like me on the internet.
You found your thing.
I'm just like, I'm funny now? That's crazy. I support it, but also what?
Was there a horror club at your high school? Nope. So here you
was
are.
Just weird.
And
I did get elected
podcasts.
president, but I was weird.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Listen, think about this. I love this. I love this so much. Podcasts like yours will be the reason why there is a horror club at somebody's middle school or high school in the future.
Yeah,
What
I hope.
happens when there is a group of girls, even if it's only 3 or 4 of them, that are like, well, this is my favorite podcast. I was thinking maybe we can meet up every week and listen to it and talk about what they talk about. Because those kids are out
I
there.
would cry. That's
Those
adorable.
girls are out there. As a matter of fact, not even kidding, I am a nanny to one of those little girls right now. Like,
No.
she's 6 years old. And I ended up working for my friend who I also work with because of the pandemic and everything happening. So every week I am there just to oversee her in virtual school. They're 100% virtual where she is.
Mm-hmm.
So mom and dad are still working from home, but you know, me being there to have those extra eyes on her as well as just occupying her. Honestly, I have so much fun with her. We have a really good day of like, oh, okay, I'm not going to think about work. Even though work is stressing me out, I get to just play with the 6-year-old for a couple hours. Cool. And now my grandmother, her favorite holiday was Halloween. So there is sentimental connection in general with like the amount of time and energy that she invested into literally creating her own haunted house. She was that mom on the block. You know what I'm talking about? You ever go trick-or-treating and it's just like candy from this house, candy from this house. Oh, I get to walk through this house?
Yeah.
Interaction? Yeah.
That's the
When I
best
walk through your
one.
house, you have your cousins like jumping out at me. What? For free? Like, she was that mom.
That's
So my aunts and uncles, like we always, this time of year rolls around and we're like, yo, we gotta decorate just because, you know, Jackie would want us to do it. So this 6-year-old and her mother, both of them, this is their favorite culture. This is their favorite genre. And as soon as like maybe September 20-something, I pulled up the one week and was like, oh, there's a graveyard in the front yard and there's a skeleton hanging from the, okay, not even October yet. I like it. I get inside and I'm telling you, every single week that I'm there, did you see the new decorations yet, Miss Ava? Would you like to watch Hocus Pocus?
Aw.
You're not allowed.
Oh,
You're not
fun.
allowed to leave this interview when I tell you that I just watched Hocus Pocus for the first time 3 weeks ago. Okay,
Oh my
don't
God.
click the leave button. But it's just been so fun seeing how this is this little girl's favorite holiday, and I went into it mind blown. I know how my grandmother felt about it. I know how people like the two of you, your adults, felt about it. Had no idea that even 6-year-olds are like, nah, yo, this is my thing. Forget Christmas. Forget the presents. I'm trying to dress up like a vampire. Give me my fangs. Give me the fake blood.
Yeah.
I just didn't expect for that to happen within someone so young. So,
Yeah.
connecting those dots, yes, she's going to be that middle schooler like, Mrs. Adams, I was wondering if you could stay with us for 30 minutes after school just so we could listen to the Ghouls Next Door. Thanks.
That'd be great.
That would be so
Yeah,
cool.
man.
Oh, yeah, because it's also about, you know, learning. A big thing that we feel passionate about is if we do get picked up, or regardless of if we do.
When you do.
Using,
When you do.
Manifesting. We gotta
yeah.
speak it into
We
existence.
will. When, you know, our hope is that we could use our platform to essentially be those torch bearers, right? To pass it on to those voices. Like if we can do it and we can show you the importance of making media that matters and isn't, you know, intentional, and like you're creating characters with the idea that like someone is going to see themselves in that, and that you are, you might change the way someone perceives something, right? That we're,
Yes.
you know, us talking about it and us, you know, highlighting the issues that we have and asking for change and reform will inspire people to kind of shoot their shot and get out there, that we can have new voices in film, in TV, like the awesome things that we have at like Misha Green with Lovecraft Country, or Anita D'Costa with Candyman. Like we could have more of those, and that if we can, you know, inspire people to do that, then we will, right? And I think that's like a big part of what our message is people not being passive listeners and viewers, but instead putting on their media analysis glasses, as we say.
Yes.
Kat has on.
And opening their brains so that you can teach them different vocabulary words that they did not already know.
Yes.
Not only the words, but then tie the words into a concept that they needed to hear about. So yes, I get it.
The more you know.
The more
right?
you know.
The rainbow, yeah.
Yeah, man. So 2021, We talked about how amazing you guys are. Your future is indeed bright. Is there anything specific? What can we look forward to? We've got November and December coming up now. Fresh year after that. What should we be looking out for?
Yeah, we have some really good ideas for, so we do like series where we have like specific topics that we cover usually in the span of a month. Like this month of October is The Kids Are All Right, where we're talking about kids in horror and like their experiences and what it usually looks like. In the past for October, we've done very historical things, like we've covered like Edgar Allan Poe or Mary Shelley or something. But we kind of wanted, like, we just came off a break, so we're like, let's do something that's like fun and simple. Next month, like I said, we will be featuring fellow podcasters who are not, they're not our show, right? But they, because of one of them specifically is very like intentional about what she's talking about, is very niche in that, you know, and it's very needed. Like, and it's a role that we can't fill because we are not her, right? So it's just like, listen to her because she's doing it. But also other people, just because, you know, just by way of living your life and your experiences, like you're gonna see and understand media in a different lens, and so they offer that point of view. And so we're super excited for that. December will be focusing on queer horror. So horror that features like queer characters and also like the kind of horrors that they experience. We've done our representation series last year where we invited people from these different communities to come on and talk about how they're represented in film. And queer was like one of those topics that was very deep. We had like, it could never be done in just one episode. And so we will feature a queer horror podcast in our series, and then we'll right after that go into a whole month of queer horror, and then we're gonna start out with a bang in January with our For the Culture series, where it'll be specifically about different communities and minorities and their horror. So not our foreign like we've done before, but it'll feature, you know, like Native peoples horror, Black horror, Latinx and Afro-Latinx horror. So it'll be like with the specific purpose of like step out of the usual horror that we're used to and realize that there's all these other stories out there. And you know, that we have like such a, like, especially like as a Latinx person, our community is super into horror. Like we are one of the largest communities that are like the audience for horror. And it's honestly very surprising, because then when you look at horror, where are we?
Right, where are you? Yeah.
Like we're not there. So it is us kind of being intentional, like showing each of these new films. So that's what we're really hoping to do next year. Is it kind of started, you know, with the way that the world is, and the way that this year has turned out. You know, we are thankful for the movement of Black Lives Matter and how it's kind of, you know, ignited something in people. And that really, like, we were already like covering stuff like that, and as soon as that came out, we realized like we didn't have to tiptoe anymore, because we would be like, we're like, I don't want to like rub anyone wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Upset everybody.
Yeah, and as soon as, you know, as soon as like that fire, you know, happened in inside of us, we were like, like I don't
care if we get monetized.
Yeah, forget you. I don't want
Flip the tables. F the system. Let's go.
Yeah.
I love it.
So then we became way more vocal and kind of steered towards that. Did our whole Horror While Black series, and so I think we're gonna take that intentionality and on like unabashedness too. Like we're just like coming out. We're like, I don't like, you can go ahead, call us an SJW, because we are warriors.
Like it's not a bad thing.
That's so beautiful though.
And the coolest thing, I look at it like our show is like, we're calling stuff out, but we have receipts. Like we're not just saying stuff.
Receipts.
We're not just like being ignorant. Like we have researched and like done like we've done educational things.
Exactly.
What we're talking about. And I mean, this doesn't make us immune from being wrong, but we have our receipts, so we're fine. You know,
That
had
is incredible.
an email from a fan who he wasn't like anything, but it was very much like he's like, I love your commentary. He's like, but I do feel like, you know, you pick on all the groups, almost like anyone, if they're kind of stepping out of line or you know, showing themselves wrong, you are quick to highlight that. Like, but you just tend to like pick on older white men, boomers or whatever. And I was like, because they need to be picked on.
They need to.
Yeah.
Because they have been, you know, they've been at the front of everything. They've been telling.
Yes, and I'm really glad that you emailed me about this, because it sounds like you need to learn that lesson as well.
And it was like,
wow.
And we're like, we by no means are painting all old white men with the same, you know, it is.
No, but you're being honest. You're being honest, though.
Yeah. And he was like, he was nice. He was like, oh, I'm definitely still listening. He's like, I'm not one of them, which is why I was just like, what are we doing, right? But it was just like, I was like, the reason for it is that there's a lot to say, and that's why it keeps coming up, because they're everywhere.
Not our fault. Literally not our fault. We can't help that. If you read the headlines, here it is, done. Like,
if old white men were the ones making movies for all these years, we would have a lot less to complain about.
Yeah, it's like our turn, man. Like, step aside.
Our turn.
And let's we're tired of those same stories. We're tired of those same point of views. Like, give us something else to see, and also like look at how successful that's been. Like, look how excited people are for new media.
Oh my goodness!
Different points of view. They're like, yes, and they're also questioning things, right? Like the fact that Lovecraft Country and Watchmen can exist and show us Tulsa, and people are like, what is Tulsa?
Why didn't we learn about Tulsa in school?
Yeah.
Why did that happen? And then like get people upset. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People are like, what's a sundown town? It's like, people are having this conversation now because of media, and it's because of horror. And so if we can keep doing that, and even not even just to be educational, just to like show us a different point of view of life.
You're giving so much voice to a topic, as well as to people that just haven't been heard before.
Mm-hmm.
That is so purposeful and meaningful, what the two of you are doing. That's incredible, and I love hearing these stories.
You say so many compliments,
but they're all true. That's what the Mirage Pod is about, baby. No, but seriously, I truly take pride in making sure that you can see the good in what you're doing. Especially, I mean, now you've given yourselves away. You just talked about how busy, you know, you can be, and how you're constantly supporting each other and keeping the ball rolling for the podcast and for yourselves. So I'm just the third party, like, yo, I'm an empath on an extreme level. So right now I'm hearing and feeling from you everything that you put into your very meaningful work. But as you're saying it all, it's very easy for me to put myself into the shoes of, for example, the gentleman that emailed you about that. That exchange in itself is so powerful. You got to open his mind and bring something to his attention. And here we go. Here comes another compliment. Look at what that says about the two of you, that he was comfortable to email you and say that. And like you said, he wasn't being malicious or negative. But the fact that you could open, you know, that avenue for an honest conversation, that is such powerful work. Mm-hmm. And this is like, it's been 3 years, yes, but to some people that's short, to some people that's long. This is only the beginning, dude. This is only the beginning. The effort that you put into making it so that this avenue exists, it's going to continue to just get wider and wider. This is incredible.
We're one of the things for starting this month and moving forward, and something we're proud of, is that we were asked to start writing these think pieces and articles for a specific blog about film and analysis. And that's something that we've always been passionate about. Like, our scripts are pretty much like an article.
The emails, guys, the emails are going to roll in like there's no tomorrow. I might need the ghouls to hire me just to be a person that can, like, at least read them and say, hi, the ghouls are busy right now. They will get back to you, though. I put this on a sticky note on their desk, okay? Like,
yo, we were making jokes about that. I was like, we should just say we have, because we saw, like, other podcasts who had, like, assistants and stuff. And we were like, we should just make one up. be like, "Hi, I'm Sylvia. You've reached the ghouls next door. They're very busy. Let me make sure that," and it's just me. It's just me writing that. But
That's so
I'm all
funny.
for Sylvia because then that makes us look more important.
Yeah, no.
But it's really funny.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not opposed to that. I have talked to my best friend about something very similar. Or you have like the, I don't know if you've watched Insecure. They're like, Issa Rae's office. How can I help you? Oh, you'd like to speak to Issa? Yes, please hold. Issa Rae speaking.
Literally what it would be like, or just like have a friend be like, yes, this is for Gabe and Kat. They will put you in the schedule.
Yep. So I'm inspired, and I always have been, and I'm humbled that you took some time out of your very busy day, it sounds like, to stop and chat with me. So I really appreciate that. And from this point on, what you guys do, if you want, I know my audience is tiny right now, but it'll get bigger. Yeah. And either way, like, you always have our support, and we'll be happy to share everything that you're doing with the world.
You got wonderful and beautiful energy, and you will definitely get popular too, 100%.
Thank you. Take all the energy. Take the positive energy. I really appreciate that. Thank you. This was really fun and phenomenal.
It was. I was like an hour and a half. I am introverted.
Right.
What will we talk about? And then Gabe's like, it's gonna be good. And I'm like, all right, I trust you. And then it was great. And I genuinely had a wonderful time.
Yay! The feeling is mutual. We will be in touch in the near future. To everyone listening, thanks so much for tuning back in. I hope you guys just felt all the fun and the positive energy that happened here on this little tiny screen.
Yeah.
Thanks. We'll talk soon, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
And I forget what I was about to say. I lost my train of thought. That's my favorite thing to do, is go find these moments and cut them out.